Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to all of the paying members of my Patreon channel. Your support is necessary, and without you, none of this is possible. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, Cash App and PayPal are available. Just be sure to let me know in the For section if it's okay for me to thank you publicly, or else I'll assume you want to remain anonymous. Previously on Laymans Journal Live, I discussed the recent firing of NFL analyst Ryan Clark, the fallout in response to it, and why I don't think it's that big of a deal. I also discussed Ryan Clark's termination, with discussions about Pat McAfee getting an extension and a raise at the same company. So, without further ado, let's get it. There are two things I want to talk about here. First, I want to talk about Pat McAfee and why he's getting money, why he's getting a raise while everybody's getting fired. Okay. Pat McAfee is a YouTuber. He has 3 million subscribers. All right. He mentioned something that Pat McAfee produces his own show. That is correct. You see, Pat McAfee was already doing this thing on YouTube, getting hundreds of thousands of viewers every day, live streaming. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, it's more difficult to get viewers to watch your live stream than it is your videos. All right. It's very hard to get people to tune in to the live stream. Pat McAfee gets 232,000 live views. You know, that's like equivalent to getting 2 million video views. And he gets these people in here live every day. Okay. And they're watching for 2 hours at a time. All right. That's why not only that, but because he produces his own show, he has his own studios, he has his own crew, he has his own staff, he has his own host, everything. ESPN doesn't have to pay for any of that production. So when he does his show, they literally just flip a switch where it's simulcast between YouTube and ESPN. YouTube pays zero production cost for Pat McAfee because Pat McAfee does all that by himself. So it costs them pennies to have his show on the air. They do nothing, but then they get to turn around and sell the ads. That's why they're paying him so much money, because they do nothing to produce the show, but they make tens of millions of dollars selling ads to it, hundreds of millions of dollars selling ads. That's why they're paying him so much money, because it's zero loss for them and only gain. They only make money. That's why he said ESPN needs Pat more than Pat needs ESPN. That's true, because Pat is doing all the work. And he was already, I think he was in a $120 million deal with, I forget who was with, but Pat doesn't need ESPN. And that ironically, and this is where we're going to come back to Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark is ironically the reason why he was fired. He's the reason why he was fired, but not in the way that you think. Okay. Now, I talked about the numbers, about how ESPN has bad ratings and Ryan Clark's presence on the network was bad ratings. The reason why ESPN is struggling is twofold. Number one, they went too far with the woke. There's too many women on that network. Okay? Too many women on that network. Now, if you want to have a female journalist like Linda Cohn in the studio reading the teleprompter, that's cool. But when you got women on the sideline, when you have women giving their analysis on basketball and football, you're going too damn far. All right? When people tune in to ESPN, they don't want to hear a woman's opinion. If you want to have her read the teleprompter, that's cool. If you want to have her doing updates, that's cool. But when you have her on the sideline, when you have her hosting a show, then you're going too far. That's the problem with ESPN. Too many women. The second issue with ESPN is that it's too political. It's too social. It's too social justice centered. Okay? Listen, and I've said this before. The average person, okay, hates their job. Hates their job. All right? The average person doesn't have $2,000 in their checking account. So they can't survive an emergency. So they hate their job and they don't have any money. The average person says they didn't marry their soulmate. I think it's like 70% to 80% of people say they didn't marry the person that they wanted to marry. We talk about how men under 30, 63% are electively single. We talk about how women are more depressed than ever. We talk about childbirth rates and how they're plummeting, how marriage rates are plummeting, how divorce rates are high. So again, you have people that aren't getting married. If they are getting married, they're getting married to the wrong person. They can't find jobs. They do find jobs. It doesn't pay them enough. They can't pay for an emergency. So every day you have people getting up next to a person they don't love, if they even have anybody, commuting to a job that they hate that doesn't pay enough money just so they can come home to an empty home or a person that they hate. Every day. And that's a hard freaking way to live. That's a hard way to live. And most people, because they live that life, they turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs, they turn to all types of illicit behavior to cope with what they're going through. But some people look to entertainment media. Some people look to sports as a way to tune out the real world. And so for those 2 to 3 hours where they're watching the game or whatever it is, they can just focus on that and nothing else. And that's enough to get them through the day. That's enough for them to get up in the morning and go to that job that doesn't pay them enough money to come home to that spouse that they hate, if they have one at all. That football game, that basketball game, that baseball game, that's enough to get them through. I personally used to live for ESPN. Waking up in the morning at 6:30, 7 o'clock and catching that morning ESPN before I went to school was everything in high school and college. I loved it. And those were some unhappy years in my 20s, but watching ESPN helped me get through that. All right? But then they took it away when they put the women on the network. And now it's about women's policies and ideas and women's opinions. So now I no longer have a place to go where I can escape as a man from life's problems. I came to this network to escape from problems, and then you brought the problems on the air. Now I've got to be preached to. I've got to be lectured to. I've got to be told that I have privilege as a man, not because I've done anything, simply because I'm a man. And I gotta get these lectures from women who don't know anything about sports. That's the problem with ESPN. And I'll say it, as a man who may have troubles or stresses every day, I don't want to hear that shit, especially from a woman. Not on ESPN. Not on ESPN. Now, if I turn to Lifetime, if I turn to OWN or Oxygen or any of these networks, I know what I'm getting is progressive ideologies from. It's like when I want to hear news, if I'm a conservative, I'll turn on News Nation or I'll turn on Fox News or whatever. If I'm a liberal, I'll watch MSNBC. If I'm watching MSNBC as a liberal, I don't want to hear from a Trump supporter. If I'm watching Fox News as a conservative, I don't want to hear from a Democrat or liberal talking points. I didn't tune into those networks to hear the opinions and views that I don't want to see. So if you're a man who wants to hear about sports and you want to have a place to escape, You don't want to deal with that DEI wokeism. You don't want to hear about it. You don't want to hear about it. But they throw it in your face. And now you have no place that you can escape to as a man to get away from the things that stress you out in life. Because ESPN brought the stress to you. They brought the stress in your place of rest. And so that's why their ratings have cratered. All right? And Ryan Clark is one of those people that gives political commentary that the average person doesn't want to hear, even if they agree with it. Even if they agree with it. They just don't want to think about it. Okay? When I'm watching anime, I don't want to hear anything about men's issues. I don't want to hear about red pill. I don't want to hear about manosphere, nothing like that. I don't. Why? Because I'm trying to escape my problems for that moment. I want to get into that anime and buy into the escapism. I don't want to hear about real life problems. I deal with that 24/7. Let me have this half hour or these 2 hours of watching my favorite anime. Let my brain relax. But networks like ESPN won't let you do that. They got to constantly remind you that you got these stresses all in your face that you have to deal with every day. That's their problem, okay? But another issue, and this goes back to Pat McAfee, is that they forgot what they are about. They're a sports network. Talk about sports and give me some good analysis. Give me some good analysis, okay? And that's what they're lacking. And this is why I say this is another reason why Ryan Clark is the reason why Ryan Clark is fired. This is the Pivot Podcast, okay? The Pivot Podcast is an outstanding show. I don't agree with everything Ryan Clark says, but this show right here is absolute fire. It is a great show, and I watch them often. And you know why I watch them? Because Ryan Clark knows what he's talking about. Fred Taylor knows what he's talking about. I forget the other guy's name, Channing Crowder. He knows what he's talking about. And the analysis you get from the Pivot, you get from All the Smoke, you get from Club Shay Shay, you get from what's the other show Shannon Sharp has? Nightcap is 1,000 times better than the garbage you get on ESPN. These athletes that have gone on YouTube and created their own podcast are kicking ass right now. They're outstanding. And so why would you watch ESPN where you're gonna have some women and some fat little journalists who never played the game on any level to tell you what their analysis is? Who cares what you think, buddy? Who cares what you think, lady? You didn't play the game. I'm gonna watch Ryan Clark on the Pivot because Ryan Clark knows what he's talking about, because Cam Newton knows what he's talking about, because Shannon Sharp knows what he's talking about, because Matt Barnes and Stephen A. Smith, they know what they're talking about. And you idiots at ESPN don't know shit. You're too focused on social issues and what women think to give me any good sports analysis. That's why their ratings are down. That's why they're not making any money. And that's why they're paying Pat McAfee so much money. Because Pat McAfee, his show gives great analysis. And they only focus on sports. So ironically, Ryan Clark fired himself because his show is killing ESPN. People would rather watch him on the Pivot than they would ESPN because ESPN has lost their direction. That's why. And so when he's sitting here crying, upset, you know, I don't get that. I don't get that. Buddy, you've got something better than ESPN. You got your own show. Why are you upset they fired you? You're doing better on your own. You're doing way better on your own. These tears don't mean anything. Okay, so they fired you. that means you have more time to continue kicking their ass. Because nobody's watching analysis on ESPN. Again, they're watching Ryan Clark on the pivot. Who cares? Who cares? And that's my take on the issue.
Now streaming on Patreon.
Layman's Journal, Chapter 285. I'm going to start this video with an excerpt from a content creator named Marina McBain. And she's going to talk about how the most romantic movies, the movies that women seem to all love, are about cheating.
I genuinely think that Hollywood wants me to cheat on my future husband. And I'm not being dramatic. Because according to nearly every romance movie ever, if my toxic ex-boyfriend shows up in the rain looking mildly regretful, apparently I'm supposed to throw my entire life away and run into his arms. And I grew up thinking that was peak romance, okay? 16-year-old me watched those scenes and thought, yes, that is what true love looks like. Messy, desperate, and completely willing to destroy anyone who gets in the way. If someone leaves their fiancé at the altar just because their real love walked back into town, that is not betrayal, that is epic. Because now all I could think about was how almost every single iconic love story involves some type of cheating. And that's not an exaggeration. The Notebook, cheating. The Office, cheating. Titanic, cheating. Cheating, 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 cheating.
Yes, and I think she's correct. Hollywood has romanticized women finding true love through cheating. And the thing that's so significant about the men these women choose to cheat on is they aren't villains. They aren't abusive, unattractive, negligent, or philanderous. They're just not as fun or romantic as the guys they cheat with. In other words, they're the safe choice, the practical choice. They're stable, responsible men with ambition who would make for great husbands in the real world. The problem is, they're boring. They don't have the swag or charisma, the spontaneity or romance the cheating women are looking for. And once the cheating woman decides to leave her boring, stable husband or boyfriend for the charismatic guy, the movie ends, and it gives you the impression that they have a happily ever after. As we in the audience are led to believe, they go on to live the perfect life, filled with constant joy and romance, where every day is a day their love grows stronger, that they never fight or struggle in their relationship. But more importantly, the woman is never bored. But those of us who live in the real world know that's not true. Those fun guys often make for terrible husbands. And those adrenaline-driven, love-drunk women will eventually get tired of the fun guy and will be regretful of the choice they made. And the film Blue Valentine is a classic example of that. On the surface, it's the story about a young college student, a pre-med major named Cindy, who dumps her college sweetheart in favor of a young, handsome, bohemian high school dropout named Dean. And in the beginning, their relationship is one of those Hollywood whirlwind romances that are often celebrated in entertainment media. But as the film goes on, you'll see that all that glitters ain't gold.
You've just seen a preview of my latest video, which you can watch now in its entirety, uncensored and without obstruction, exclusively on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/Layman's Journal. Hope to see you there. I'm out.